Right. So today, when this is going out, it's my 21st birthday. When we're recording this, a couple of days before, and I wanted to finish the episode off. I finished the series off even with just rounding off all the episodes we've done in Series 3. Series 3 has been epic. I've really enjoyed it. I've loved it. I've loved doing it. And as always, I say every series, it's really taught me a lot in terms of life lessons, but also just free recovery and mentality in total. This series we set out to start making at the end of last year, and by the end of the series, I wanted to make sure it was visual, which has happened now. We are now a visual podcast as well, which is really epic and so much fun, and I have so much admiration for it. I forgot a bit of hay fever today, so just excuse me if I'm feeling a bit groggy, feeling a bit ill. Apart from that, we'll get into it. I just want to break down every episode, what's taught me, what's taught the listeners, and that's what the whole point of the podcast is about. I started the podcast due to my accident I had on the family farm, where we are right now. You might see Daisy in the background in the stable over there. And I want to share all the life lessons that I've had since my accident and through my recovery with amazing people I met who I get on the podcast as well. So that's the whole idea behind it. I know a lot of people have been following us for a while and have been viewing us and listening, and it's just been amazing to have you on board. So thanks so much again for all of that. Series 3, Episode 1, we did Midlands Air and its charity, Davis in the airbase. This really taught me, mostly, looking at my book now, just to give me a few pointers, was helping others. The air ambulance is not government funded whatsoever. It solely relies on donations from the public and also from corporate sponsors. As you probably know, I am doing a skydive tomorrow as well to raise money for Midlands Air charity. They also saved my life. So for me, giving up and doing a challenge when I was about 15, 16 of walking 54 miles in 30 days on crutches, and then doing 300 miles in 3 days on a bike to raise money for that charity is a personal thing for me. So to have the opportunity to go up to the airbase and show you guys what it's like up there at Fitzstrensham was awesome. Obviously, we met 2 of the reps and also critical care paramedic Will, and they all talked about how their charity is helping rescue lives every single day. That message throughout the whole episode was about helping others. It was about just showing that life is more than just bills and all that boring stuff. And actually, the most serious of things, which is going out and saving people's lives, critical care paramedics, the top guys, don't take life too seriously, but also show that when it is serious, there's ways to get through it. That's what we learned for that episode. And for everyone who hasn't watched that, or listened to it even, go and check that out. And hopefully the skydive will be okay tomorrow. I'm kind of bricking it on how it's going to go. The second episode we did was Stuart Anderson MP for South Shropshire, and also a long career in the military. He taught us so much throughout the whole episode. Persistence was the main thing, and being proactive. When I was with him during the actual recording, but also with him just talking generally when we were recording for the episode, we actually were so alike in terms of persistence and proactiveness, in terms of achieving goals and just getting to them. I think if you're going to be a good MP like he is, you definitely have got to be proactive and definitely have an open mindset of growth time and time again. So Stuart Anderson, thank you for showing me that. Thank you for also giving me a lot of confidence as well in terms of what we're doing and really backing the podcast. He's very much a pro farmer from a farming background, and also a very insightful man in terms of his military knowledge as well. Third episode, moving on to Elliott Gibson. So Elliott, what a best mate of mine. I'm actually going to see him on this weekend, first time in about a year and a half. The episode we recorded together was over Zoom, so obviously haven't seen him in a long time. He's been one of my closest mates since we were about 9 or 10 years old, and we've kept in touch ever since. He's been flying across all the world at the moment. He's just qualified since we recorded it as a pilot, a general pilot, in terms of flying Boeings and stuff like that. So he has really excelled, and he really showed us throughout the whole episode on showing and proving your life ambition, following your life ambition rather. He has always wanted to be a pilot, like he's ever since I've known him. He's just grown up talking about pilot stuff, getting involved in flying, pushing himself to the limit time and time again, following his ambition. And, you know, we never really knew at school if he was going to go and do it, if he was actually going to achieve it, but he went and, and bloody did it, put it that way. He has been a real example of people who just don't give up. And Elliott has shown us also that life can be tricky when you're trying to follow your dreams. It wasn't easy for him. Exams were heavily tough, obviously, to be a pilot, and long hours, long unsociable hours, as he mentions in that podcast episode. But thank you again for just showing us that sort of insightfulness. And he's really inspired me throughout the whole podcast to keep myself going, because I know one day we'll get there in terms of viewers and listeners figures, but also you guys coming on the journey with me. So, Gibbo, we'll see you on the weekend. And moving on to episode 4, where the sort of mid-series break happened for us this year. Series 3, I was recording up until February, March. And then, obviously, in March, I'm not sure if a lot of you are aware, but I went off to Africa to Restart Africa, which I'm an ambassador for. The charity Restart Africa rescues and rehabs street children from the whole of Kenya and the East African region. Started by Mary Colston MBE in 2007 after the life-changing civil war in Kenya. A lot of children were made homeless and a lot of families devastated, and she couldn't see that devastation happen without at least offering a hand. So starting a little shack in town and building up from there, we're now 15 more years later, we're now a fully functioning centre with over 100 children, that we look after and basically care for, all the way from nursery age to university level. We don't just rehab them, we teach them the new ways of life. We try and love them, care for them, and show them that they are supposed to be loved and cared for, because in their previous lives have been abused in circumstances which are just unbelievable. So for myself, going out there last year for 3 months as a volunteer, I achieved so much and I absolutely loved it. And then obviously getting involved more and more as time went on, I'm now an ambassador. So when I went out there, of course, I had to take the podcast out there with me. Why could I not? I had to showcase the beautiful work that Mary and the whole team at Restart, that I work with and are now friends with, do for so many people. Not just the children, but also the people of Gilgil, which is the local town, and far, far beyond, such as Nairobi clinics and so much more that Mary does, just showcasing it through. And the main message, I suppose, was love. Caring, loving, and supporting one another. These children have been through the most unimaginable stuff. Like, you just can't put it into frame. And I can't talk too much about it publicly on the podcast, but it is just a lot. And just to process that, enough for me, was just enough to process it, let alone actually live it and experienced it. So for those kids, to them to go through it and still be happy-go-lucky people, love life, be ambitious, really appreciate everyone around them, that really was the main message of love and respect for one another. So that whole episode was great. We also had some volunteers that came on that were out me at the same time, and they all sort of talked about their experiences of the charity, and that you can volunteer still now. The volunteer process is still open. I actually help oversee part of it, and if you want to get involved and be involved with the charity, you can teach, you can showcase skills, you can just be out there just giving a general hand. Go there, www.restartafrica.org. That will be where you can apply there. So a great episode 4, and we come back in episode 5, back in the country and back on the roll board to go and meet a great man, this man being Sam Meese. Sam is a good friend of mine now. We met on a corporate day up in just by Birmingham, listening and learning from one of the best sort of marketing talking people, that even makes sense, marketing people that is around, a great guy. And basically we're on the same page, we're on the same wavelength in terms of where we want to be, in terms of how we all can work together. And Sam's made a great impression throughout everyone the whole day. I was watching him bounce through the whole room, talking to groups when we had the breaks in between each session, and I could just see he'd be a guy that I need to get on the podcast and showcase. So I didn't know much about him until we actually interviewed him and I did a bit of research. But the episode really is about just having that mental resilience and having that discipline. Sam shows that through all his sport, his taekwondo days, all the way to him now throwing himself into a new market, being a young entrepreneur in the market of property and property deal sourcing. A guy who's basically worked his way up in the fitness industry and said, right, I fancy a change in my life and going to something completely different. So he just shows us actually a bit more ambition, which obviously links back to Elliott Gibson's episode, but also how to be persistent and look after yourself through also food and dietitian, that he also talks about in the episode. So Sam's a great guy. I had great fun interviewing him, and it's a great episode in total. I know I keep saying all of them are great episodes, but they really are. When I look back on them all, they have all been great fun to record. Moving on to episode 6. This one was a first for all of us in terms of the podcast, because it was our first ever proper visual episode. We recorded it in a studio, the Pod Collective studio up in Banbury, so good shout out to them. Pod Collective offer loads of different opportunities, loads of different studios for you who are just maybe even small podcasts all the way to large podcasts in terms of recording. They offer the studio, they offer the recording setup, and they offer the editing services. So they're great, and good shout out to them. They haven't sponsored any of this. I just think they're great, and they were really good to us while we were recording. So the podcast was with Alex Pieri. Alex, again, was getting himself into the property market in terms of actually buying and selling and doing up the houses themselves. AP is the company that it trade under, and him and his brother started the company, formed the company again together a couple of years ago and have grown it ever since. So again, I met him on a corporate marketing day, the same one I met Sam Meese on, and he again has had such aspiration to do so well for himself. He's put a lot of effort in. It's been really hard for him, and he just kept going. And him and his brother have now created a really, really successful channel in terms of also media, but also as also their business level. He mainly showed us really, and I wrote a few points down really for his episode. Being an entrepreneur, I think he was the most entrepreneurial person we kind of interviewed in terms of that kind of level. He really just kept showing us throughout the whole episode a new way of thinking of things, and I really love that proactiveness of thinking of things. Again, linking back to the episode of Stuart Anderson, any new skills and how to adapt. Alex was talking all about throughout the whole episode about how he was going to adapt all the different things that he has learned throughout the whole process. He's honestly opened up and said it was never going to be perfect. We made mistakes. It was never going to be right. And he is right. Running a new business and being an entrepreneur, you're never going to get things right. So him opening up about that and just telling us that the mistakes are going to happen and failure will happen and how you deal with that is a great big part of that episode for me personally anyway. And also the workplace relationships. Him and his brother are business partners, and for me, with my family, I don't think I could be able to work. I don't think I'd be able to work with them. So that's really special for him, and I also said that to him as well that it was a special thing to have. So first visual episode, and the last two again are visual, and put a lot of effort into them, and they're great, great inspirations. Because episode 7 was with Jak Mason. Imagine your best friend being attacked a night out, and then suddenly you're faced with having to help support him along with his family and his other friends. Jak has showcased love, friendship, and support throughout his whole challenge and throughout the whole episode we did together. Jak Mason was episode 7's guest, and he has run 102 kilometers in one day in aid for his best mate Liam after again being sadly attacked on the night out. I was actually there a couple of days ago when the actual run happened. I was lucky enough to be on the interview process in terms of interviewing a few guests there, and he really showcased true resilience throughout the whole journey of the challenge. He only managed to do 70k, but at the same time, it was blistering heat, and 70k is over a marathon and a half or something like that. It was ridiculous for what he did. Maybe 2 marathons, I think. So in the episode, he kind of shows us again friendship, admiration, and true resilience in terms of his whole journey. He hasn't had the easiest path in life either, and he's such a lovely man and generally loving to each other and generally loving to his mates, generally loving to me. And even when I just came on the episode, he was so nice to myself and really showed us that you can never have to give up and you can keep following that ambition. Episode 8, the final episode of this series, one that we probably learned the most about in terms of the IT world, was with Daniel. I'm not going to pronounce his last name because I still can't pronounce it. But Dan is a mastermind in terms of the IT world. He's a mastermind of how things work in software and all that sort of stuff. But also in terms of the media, is such a creative bloke and was so kind to me when we were recording the episode in his own studio. He just showed me so much about all the tech there, how to use it, and really gave me his time before we recorded the episode for about an hour or so, just showing me all the different things that will help me along my journey with Down the Farm Media, my new business, but also the podcast as well. He mainly taught us about ingenuity in terms of integrating new things. AI maybe not a bad thing. I'm from a background of farming and agriculture, and it's everyone quite against AI, and is no one really takes that seriously. But maybe it is a good thing in terms of how everything goes on within the future. Forward thinking again, linking back to adversity, and most of all, really, his IT knowledge. He showed us so many different things that has happened, and even in the farming industry, of all the lasers in terms of weed detectors and that sort of thing. His knowledge is insane. So I recommend you to follow him. He has his own channel, his own stuff. I'll link all in the description below. and I really look forward to working with him again in the future. So that wraps it up, really. The whole series in total. It's been 8 episodes with 8 interesting individual guests, and I've had great fun. The main lessons I think I've learnt from the whole series in total: kindness, love and respect, ambition, and to be proactive. So on my 21st birthday, which is now coming out today, when you're watching this, but obviously a couple of days before, like we said at the start, before it's happening, it's Thursday. Anyway, shut up, Henry. It doesn't make any difference when it's recording or not. I want to take all these lessons with me for my 21st and beyond. And hopefully Series 4 when we return, and I'm guessing I think it's about to be June now, with a great new bunch of guests, we will learn so much more. So thank you down the farm listeners and viewers for all your support, and hopefully we'll see you in Series 4.